Hello, welcome everyone. Uh, as we are aware, we are going through this difficult situation. We are fighting with this invisible enemy coronavirus, and we are staying at home to protect our families, ourselves, and our society. So, like we are staying at home, and we do not have any idea how to kill the time and how to going forward. What will be the situation and what will be the circumstances? So, we thought like why not convert this free time into the quality time, and we come up with this interesting webinar regarding with very good new subject, new topic, uh, close to our heart. A founder of Maratha Swaraj, heart and soul of Maharashtra, founder of Maratha Navy, Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj. So I have a very like unique and beautiful stories of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj to tell you. But before that, I have to introduce myself. Maloji Jagdale. I'm an IT professional. I'm IT engineer working in Fortune 500 MNC, and also apart from this, I'm history researcher, I'm YouTuber, I'm traveler. I travel across 12 countries and more. I wrote few articles in newspapers as well. I'm coordinating currently state of Maharashtra government in UNESCO World Heritage Project to inscribe Fort of Maharashtra into UNESCO World Heritage list. So I guess everything will go well, and if this happens, Maharashtra forts will appear on map of the World Heritage sites and going forward. I would like to introduce one interesting person. He is with me right here, right now. He wrote two books on Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj in English. So he is author, writer, and he is doctor by profession and writer by passion. So I would like to introduce Dr. Gautam Pradhan. Hello, Dr. Gautam Pradhan. How are you?
Hello. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, hello, Dr. Pradhan. Can you please tell us about your this interesting journey of these two books and your passion for history?
Actually, many years ago when I first started studying history, I realized that there are very few books in English on Chhatrapati Shivaji, and because of which I felt that a large percentage of Indian population would not read about him as much as Maharashtrians read about him, because there are plenty of books in Marathi but very few in English. And also the younger generation who is more educated in English is not likely to read in detail about him, and which is a very unfortunate thing, because there is so much to learn from this person's life and such a great personality from our past. And so I thought that let me try to sort of fill this void and try to get a series of books on Chhatrapati Shivaji in English. And that is how the idea of my trilogy on Shivaji was born. And I started started researching in 2010, and I started writing in 2013. The first book came out actually in 2017, and the title of the book is 300 Brave Men. And this book deals with 20 years of Shivaji's life from 1640 to 1661. And the second book, which is titled Lord of the Royal Umbrella, deals with the period from 1661 to 1674. And the third book will be after 1674, and that book is being written right now. So that is how this trilogy of books has come about.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Pradhan, for introducing yourself and telling us about these two books. But I would like to ask another question. Why in English? Because like there are few books in English, and considering the population of Maharashtra, we are like a huge population, almost 13 crores population who speaks Marathi. And why not in Marathi? Why in English?
Like as I said, there are plenty of books on Chhatrapati Shivaji in Marathi. There is plenty of literature as well as there are plenty of history books in Marathi. But if you look at the bookstores or even online, if you search, there are very few books in English. Especially English literature on Shivaji is extremely rare to find. And the common reader who is not really very enthusiastic about reading a proper history book or a biography, and who prefers to read literature is unlikely to find something on the shelf. And that is why I decided to write in English. Also, as I said, the younger generation who is educated in English reads very little Marathi literature today. Even like my children hardly read any Marathi literature, and so for that generation, having something in English is very important. It was also my thought that probably if I write in English, it would reach a more international audience. The stories of great people like Alexander and Julius Caesar and all are written in English, and the whole world knows about them. So why shouldn't the world know also about great personalities from Indian history? And so that was also another idea behind writing in English.
I would like to ask you, like, if you want to share any specific things, unique facts about Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, like any incidents or anything which are like totally unknown to us?
There are many things actually, especially many things which I learned about Shivaji Maharaj when I started reading his history, because very little is taught to us in schools and even in colleges, and unfortunately today even in Maharashtra very little is taught about Shivaji Maharaj to the children. So a large part of his history remains still unknown to the common man. And I don't know how many people know that Shivaji Maharaj was the first Indian Hindu king in about 1,000 years to start a naval force. The last king to have a navy was sometime in 1,000 years before Shivaji, one of the Chalukya kings. After that, no indigenous king had started any navy, a naval force. And which is why the European powers took charge of the coastal areas of the country, the western coast as well as the eastern coast. And the Mughal and the Adil Shahi rulers would trade through them, and no indigenous Indian power had any control over the seas. And Shivaji Maharaj realized this as a sort of a drawback or a weak point, and he decided to convert it into his strength. So as early as about 1658, Shivaji Maharaj started building warships at Kalyan and Pend, and his navy then every year it became more and more powerful, and especially after his coronation, his naval force was very strong, very powerful, and he could actually give a fight to the powerful navies like those of the English even. So that is something which a lot of people don't know about him. Also, a large part of his administrative prowess, his fabulous administration of his kingdom. I mean, we know all of the famous battles about Shivaji, but how many of us really know how well he administered his kingdom? I mean, he was the first person, probably in a long time, the first monarch who actually decided to decentralize power. He had a full court of about 8 ministers, and his kingdom was divided into provinces. Each province had a provincial head who could function independently from the king. So the king did not really have to bother about the day-to-day administration of his kingdom. Although the final power did vest in him, he controlled everything, but yet the ministers were empowered to take decisions on their own. He also was a great social reformer. He was probably the first one in a really long time who established a proper judicial system. One of his 8 ministers was a Nyayadhish or a Chief Justice, and the Maratha kingdom had a proper court of justice, which was almost unheard of in those days. There are so many other things the respect which he gave to women, the chivalry which he extended towards them, the discipline of his army, and so many other things. Like we would read only about the particular incident in the history book, but what went behind, the politics behind it and the planning of the whole thing, these are the few things which almost nobody ever reads about. So these are the things which I have tried to bring out in my books.
That's great. Actually, we are totally unaware of few of those points and those facts about Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj. Considering the contribution to the Navy, like resurrection of Indian Navy was done by Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, and I can recall one incident that during the war of Khanderi Fort, which was like a 15 or 20 kilometers south to the Mumbai, uh, he planned to build that fort, Khanderi Fort, and Britishers opposed it, and they attacked the Khanderi Fort. And Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj defeated the mighty British Navy with the small ships which can roaming freely around the shallow waters. So this thing is like a part of his military excellence. And as you mentioned, another point like respect to the women's, he was one of those king who like opposed the dancing girls in the military camps. So like Maratha army was very much disciplined. No dancing girls, no intoxicants, no liquor or no wines served in the Maratha camps, and all those like contempt, all those things are noted down by Francois Martin, who was French governor, who visited Maratha camp during the Dakshin Digvijay Mohim, Southern India Mohim, which was Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj's like expedition after coronation, and it happened in 1677. I am holding this piece of paper which is 348 years old, the London Gazette. This newspaper was published in British Empire in 1672. The newspaper was first started in 1665. The news arrived in England by 1672 of Surat raided by Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj. The Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj raided Surat in 1670, and it was a big humiliation for then Mughal Empire and for Aurangzeb. It was so humiliating that the news got widespread not into the India but Indian subcontinents and to the Europe and the all of the parts, some parts of the country. So I would like to ask Dr. Pradhan, there is one incident with Aurangzeb's convoy reached Persia, then Iran, and Shah of Iran, Shah Abbas, humiliated Aurangzeb's convoy. What was that incident, sir?
Well, actually, the news of the raid on Surat had spread far and wide, almost all across the major kingdoms of the world at that time, and it had also reached the Persian king emperor. And at that time, the Persian emperor wrote a letter to Aurangzeb saying that it seems that you have forgotten how to rule your own empire. So I am going to come with my army to India, and I am going to teach you how to rule your country. Which this letter actually raised a lot of alarm in Aurangzeb's court, because it was interpreted as if the Shah of Persia was threatening an invasion on the Mughal Empire, and because of which the correspondence started between the Mughal Empire and the Persian emperor, and the Mughal envoy to the Persian court was humiliated by the emperor and he was sent back. But unfortunately, what happened was that after this incident, the Shah of Persia himself died, and the new king, the new Persian emperor, was not as hostile to the Mughal emperor, and so this threat passed. But yes, it was one of the reasons why Aurangzeb's northern and northwestern frontier was always sort of unsettled, because the Afghans in Afghanistan were nearly always revolting against him, and he had to spend a lot of time, energy, effort, and had to always post armies on the northwest frontier. So this threat from the Persian emperor himself, Shah of Persia, was must have been quite unsettling for Aurangzeb at that time. And to think that this had originated because of Shivaji's exploits in the Mughal dominions. So yeah, that is how it worked out.
Yeah, thank you, sir. That means that Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj was not only famous in India, not only in the Indian subcontinent, but in most of the parts of the Europe and some parts of the world as well, where the British factories, British companies and British Empire was existed that time. So here my next question is, contemporary French governors, Dutch East India Company officers, like British officers and Portuguese governors, they mentioned Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, and they compared Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj to like the most famous warriors in the history, like Gustavus Adolphus, like Hannibal, the Attila, Alexander the Great. What would you tell about this?
Yeah, there are a lot of accounts by the factory officers, the English factory officers, Dutch, the French, as well as plenty of accounts by foreign travelers
Yes,
at
sir.
that time, and some of these were in close sort of contact with the Mughal officers, and also they have visited Shivaji's camp, they have met Shivaji himself. So there have been a lot of interactions with the foreigners in India at that time, and some of them have written extensively about Shivaji, and some of them have compared Shivaji to sort of foreign heroes across the world. But I still feel that rather than going by the opinion of foreigners, it's important that we assess what Shivaji was for our own country and for our history. Because the reason being, because a lot of accounts and a lot of records that have been maintained, especially by the English, when you read them, you feel that some of them are biased, and there is no there's no surprise here, because the English depended on the Mughal Empire and the Adil Shahi Empire for their business. Their factories were in the Mughal Empire, in the Adil Shahi Empire. Some of them were in Shivaji's dominions, but most of them were in the Mughal Empire. And so there was no reason why the English would write against the Mughal Emperor and in favor of Shivaji. So I still feel that a lot of accounts are biased, but yes, some of these foreigners who did come in contact with Shivaji have written a lot about him in praise of him. Yeah.
As you said, I can recall two wars of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj. One is War of Khanderi and one is War of Siaghad, where Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj's war techniques were inspired by two great warriors. One is Hannibal and one is Mahmud the Great, the second Mahmud from Ottoman Empire. He used those small ships, and he used small ships in the War of Khanderi, and he defeated the mighty British Navy in that war. And the second incident was he torched the horns of cow, and he sent them towards the Mughal army during the War of Siaghad, and he misdirected the Mughal army and he won that war. So I would like to ask you, Dr. Pradhan, do you have any stories about this guerrilla warfare or this military strategies of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj? Because Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj was not only good military leader, but he was a good military strategist also. So can you please share with us?
Shivaji Maharaj was undoubtedly one of the greatest the military generals in history, simply because of the magnitude of what he achieved. You know, his strength versus the strength that he was fighting against, and the principle that he used to fight against these powerful enemies like the Mughal Empire and Adil Shah Empire was what he called in Marathi as Ganimi Kawa, that is to use minimum of his own troops, to cause minimum damage to his own troops, but to cause maximum damage to the enemy. And to that effect, he would definitely use the terrain to his greatest advantage. The Sahyadri hills were the backbone of his kingdom, and he knew that they would be his greatest strength. And time and again we have seen that he has drawn the enemy into the difficult terrain of the Sahyadri hills, and where the enemy would be at a disadvantage, because the Mughal armies were not used to fighting in the mountains, whereas the Maratha armies were adept at climbing the mountains and moving in the mountain passes and other things. And the biggest example of this was when the great Adil Shahi general Afzal Khan came to Swaraj, and he was charged by Adil Shah to arrest Shivaji or kill him. And Shivaji lured him into the hills, Sahyadri hills, into the valley of the Koyna river, where his army was at a big disadvantage. And after Afzal Khan himself was killed by Shivaji, Shivaji's army literally fell upon the Bijapuri army from all sides and slaughtered them. And there are many more examples like this. And Ganimi Kawa itself, there are so many techniques, like to give a false sense of surrender to the enemy, and then launch surprise attacks, launch surprise night attacks. Most of the time Shivaji's attacks would be at night time, when the enemy is not really very alert. And he has used these techniques time and again throughout his career. As you said, for the naval warfare, he used very small ships which were very fast and the British ships could not move as fast as the Maratha ships, and so the Maratha ships, because they were small, they could remain close to the coastline, where the British ships could not follow them because they were bigger ships. And Shivaji's ships would move along the coastline. They would outflank the English ships and attack from the bow side, from where they could not fire at them. So some of these techniques are ingenious, and Shivaji has used them repeatedly throughout his career.
Yeah, with that said, we can say that the Sahyadri itself, or the Western Ghat itself, acted as a general, Maratha general for Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, and Sahyadri defended Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj and his Maratha Swaraj. So I have next question for you. In 1674, Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj coronated himself as a king of Marathas, or as a emperor of Marathas. Why this coronation was important to him, and why this coronation was important to Deccan or his country?
You have to understand the history before Shivaji to some extent. If you go back something like 300-350 years before Shivaji, there was almost no Hindu king or indigenous king who had been coronated in that period. And Shivaji was the first indigenous king to be coronated. You know, if you consider that the Mughal and the Adil Shahi and the Qutub Shahi emperors were descendants of foreigners who did not really belong here, then the first indigenous king to be coronated in a really long time was Shivaji. The second thing was that all the land which Shivaji held throughout his life was land which previously belonged to Adil Shah. So majority of his kingdom was carved out of Adil Shah's territory, a little bit from the Mughal Empire, but most of it was from Adil Shah's territory. Now, if you see, if you take it from the point of view of the general population or the governments prevalent at that time, if an established government holds a certain land or certain property, and somebody else annexes that property, that somebody else is always going to be a rebel or a thief, whereas the rightful owner of that property is always going to be the government, the central government, which was holding that land previously. So to give legality to his kingdom, you know, you have to, if you establish a certain kingdom or establish a certain government, you have to make it legal in the eyes of everybody, in the eyes of the world, and especially in the eyes of the general population. Because even to keep the provincial jagirdars or the provincial chiefs allied to you, these chiefs have to feel that your government is legal and valid as against the Adil Shah's government. And to give that legality and validity to his government, he has performed this official coronation ceremony. It has a great significance in Indian history, because it is for the first time probably in centuries that the people of India, and especially the people of the Maratha homeland, declared in one voice that we don't need any foreign king to rule us. We have our own king and we have our own government, and we don't need anybody else. So this was an official statement, and it was very important.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Pradhan. Actually, we are like going through this difficult situation. We are fighting this invisible enemy, and like healthcare professionals like you, all the doctors, all the healthcare professional, nurses, and all other government staff is fighting coronavirus like Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj fighted with Mughals. So can you please tell us that how the character of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, how the history of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj lead us in this situation to get out of this problem or to get out of this situation?
Actually, one of the most common questions that people ask about history is, why should we study history? You know, what is the life of somebody who lived 400 years ago going to be of any help to us? And that is why I would like to say that, you know, Winston Churchill used to say that the further you look back into the past, the further ahead you will be able to look, so that you don't repeat the mistakes which were made in the past. That is the reason why we study history. And Shivaji's life especially teaches us a lot of things. First of all, his character was absolutely pure, and he was a very pious person. He was a very religious person as well, and he was probably the first king in a long time who had nationalistic views. You know, his point was that the country should survive, the kingdom should survive. Me surviving is not important. which probably no other monarch at that time had ever expressed these kinds of views. And Shivaji's life also teaches us many management lessons. The way in which he planned each and every sort of mission or campaign, the way he assessed the strengths and weaknesses on his own sides and the strengths and weaknesses on the side of the enemy, the way he sort of planned almost, you could call it micro planning, down right down to the basics and planning for the future. Every time he went on a mission, he would make complete arrangements for his kingdom to run in his absence, and even if he died in war, then how would his kingdom run without him? And he made all these preparations, so planning for the worst and planning for several years ahead or several months ahead, and how he used all of these things to plan his mission. So there's plenty of things that we can learn from Shivaji. In the current scenario also, I think that yes, we are having a lot of problems. We face a major economic breakdown, and to that effect, I think the governments need to plan into the future how to tackle all these problems of hunger, poverty, and economic problems. Some of the principles, because what Shivaji gave us were not really incidents or just missions. He gave us principles, and principles are timeless. So with due modification, you can always employ these principles to your present time.
Like as you said, his principles will lead us, will inspire us for next 1,000 generations. And as I can recall, Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj lost 23 forts in Purandar Treaty. It's like in current time, it's like losing your job and your home. But Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj rose like phoenix, and he captured not only those 23 forts, but the whole Deccan and the major part of southern India. So yes, Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj is inspiration for us. Thanks a lot, Dr. Pradhan, for your time. It was an amazing session. Thank you very much, and best of luck for your third book. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for calling me here. It was a great session. Thank you very much.